open now. There's 4 women-owned businesses. I am one of those businesses that just opened, so if you please can find time in your busy schedule this summer, come visit us. We are located right down the street. We're part of this big parking structure right here. But yeah, hopefully you guys can visit. I sell my artwork and my apparel. And yeah, that's my plug. So here you go. The name is Señorita Studios.
You're wearing the items.
And I'm wearing one of my items right now. This is, yes, a cacti heart design, eye heart design. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Oh, don't forget the name of the shop. It's Señorita Studios. Oh, don't forget the name of the shop. It's Señorita Studios.
The reason why we're here is because right in front of you, this is the one of the few remaining kitchen. It's in the oven. Okay? You're gonna find that it's really a Mexican house. The idea that this is Spanish influence, no, there's nothing like that. It's Mexicano. And so they have a bed and so on. The big, if you ever get a chance, go inside. That's fine. Okay, but the reason why I was about to hear is the realize what's going on. Remind us of Mexico. Way back when we started this tour, I was talking to you about the Quetzalcoatl Stadium, a statue. Well, the mayor who was then the acting mayor, Tom McHenry, thought that it would be a great idea to honor the person who first rose the American flag. This is circa 1848. And so this is the Thomas Fallon house. And Thomas Fallon was married to a Mexicana, and this is probably her property, but nobody remembers her. Okay? We remember the Thomas Fallon house, and so he wanted to basically give the Thomas Fallon the same type of significance as the Peralta house. But let me tell you something about the Thomas Fallon person. He was basically a one-time mayor. Never did anything of significance, but Thomas Fallon was his hero, so he wanted to. So McHenry wanted him to honor him, so he basically did the memorial in honor of Thomas Fallon. For a long time, the basement used to be a bar, and people used to hang out there. You know, they would come in every weekend, every night, and it would be a bar. And so that's how people remember it. And the house was basically a flop house. People would come in and, you know, they're renting rooms, so they would come and they would go over there to work every day. So it's really nothing of significance except for the fact that one mayor thought that it was important to remember this individual, Thomas Fallon. We're gonna go walk over to the statue, which is a sign to honor this famous Thomas Fallon. Okay, we'll find out that in fact he's not really that famous.
Quickly give me, her name was Carmela Fallon or Carmel Fallon. Hang on.
Yeah, right now there's a big controversy among historical circles. They have her down as Carmel, and they're trying to Spanicize her name a lot more, so they want to turn it to Carmela. But, you know, there's some political pressure not to do it because they want to keep it as an American name. So Carmela, hopefully we'll get Carmela to become the official name, because that's really, she comes from a big family in San Jose that used to own a lot of land and a lot of property. Okay. On this street, on the corner where the crane is the used to be the printing shop that used to be owned by a guy by the name of Humberto Garcia, who published a magazine, a bilingual bi-monthly magazine called Excentrico. El Excentrico began to be published as early as 1949. It continued until he died in 1973-74. His son, Humberto Garcia the second, took it over, and so he continued publishing this magazine in 1981. Over 640 issues were done during this time, and basically captures the life, the culture, the political thinking, the cultural thinking of Mexicans in Santa Clara County. It covers every phase of the life of people. Just imagine the way people lived here in the 1950s, where they used to have a lot of youth clubs, and guys used to hang out on their own, and girls used to hang out on their own. They would get together to go to movies together, to go play basketball and so on. By 1960s, you have individuals like Luis Valdez. Does anybody know who Luis Valdez is? Who is he?
He is one of the founders of Teatro Campesino.
And so Luis Valdez was going to San Jose State in 1960. He graduated in 1964. But a few months before he graduated from San Jose State, he decided to write a column for the Excentrico Magazine. And he's, you can see that this is a guy that has an incredible talent. He's very critical of American society. He criticizes racism. He criticizes the poor quality of education for Mexicanos, the acculturation and the assimilation that's going on that is denying Mexicans the culture. In 1964, he disappears. And a lot of people, this is a small town. Everybody's wondering what happened to Luis. He used to be known as Luis Miguel, but a lot of people used to call him El Machete. So he disappeared. And so one of the people who just died, thought that he had gone to fight a revolution in Mexico. And it tells you a lot about how there are some very patriotic Mexican Americans, and then there are people like Luis Miguel who's critical of American society. Well, it turns out that in fact he did go to a revolution, but he wasn't in Mexico. He took a long route to Europe. Then from Europe he went to Ireland, and then from Ireland to Cuba. And he spent about 3 or 4 months in Cuba in 1964. Things that you're not supposed to do if you're a U.S. citizen. Okay? And then he comes back in September, and he asked Humberto Garcia for permission to write columns praising the Cuban Revolution, the health, the education, and he just divided the Mexicano community in half. A lot of them thought of him as a traitor, as a communist. They kept writing against the letter saying that he had to go. There was no way that he would ever be allowed to publish again in the Excentrico, otherwise it would take away their ad space. Okay? But Humberto Garcia, the father, was strong enough to say, forget it, this guy deserves, he's a young talent, he knows a lot of stuff. And it's a good way to start up a dialogue, a discussion about the merits of Cuba. Okay? And so he comes back, and he's one of the first people who's actually a Pan-Americanist, a guy who believes that that you have to fight against injustice everywhere, in the United States, but just as well as in Cuba, as in Latin America. And so eventually he takes off to, a few months after, he takes off to Central Valley, and he joins up with Cesar Chavez, and he begins his work with Teatro Campesino. So again, this is one of those interesting people who, the type of people that San Jose was producing, people like Luis Valdez, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta was also here. A lot of other people. Okay? And so just imagine, this publisher kept the magazine for 30 years. It's incredible material about people dying in Vietnam, and the publisher actually printing out the photographs of the people who are dying. You also have photographs of kids who are graduating from high school and on their way to military training. And a few years later, they come back either wounded or dead, and they get that. But then they have other stories about kids who go to Vietnam or go into the service and come back and get married. So there's a lot of baby pictures, a lot of bridal pictures, interesting stuff like that. So you can tell a lot about the culture, the political thoughts that are going on, because it divides the community. By 1969, there's a lot of people who are opposed to the war, and there's a lot of people who are in favor of it. And so this magazine reflects the political culture of the people of San Jose also. Ramon wanted me to tell you a story about Fidel Castro and Luis Miguel El Machete Valdez. Obviously, one of the two things that they both have in common is the fact that they both play baseball. And Fidel Castro was so athletic. He was a wonderful pitcher. I think he could have played professional baseball. So during this visit to Cuba, Luis Valdez and Fidel Castro were playing baseball, and by accident they were playing catch, and Fidel Castro turned away. So as he was throwing the ball, this guy was gonna hit Fidel Castro, and Fidel Castro just turned around and caught the ball with his hand. This is a hard ball. He caught it. He was impressed by that. Okay. Anyway, the other part of the story is the fact, and I don't know if it's true, but Ramon says it's true. Che Guevara, the famous Argentinian, actually has California roots. He says he was one of his family goes back to some of the early ranchos, but the United States came in, took over the ranchos. This individual, his family, his great ancestor went back to Chile, and eventually the family ends up in Argentina. But the family kept the knowledge of how they come from California. So he was wondering, what would have happened if we would have stayed in California, how rich we would be. Okay. Anyway, going back to horses. Okay. When Tom McHenry wanted to make Thomas Fallon real famous, this is a power mayor. He thought he was going to put that statue in the middle of Cesar Chavez Park, where all the people can see the United States or the Mexicans. It turns out that for 10 years, the Mexicans said no way for it, but now allowed to do that. So for his office, they kept the statue in Oakland at a warehouse, and they refused to bring it here. Okay? Eventually, as a way of trying to make peace, they allowed the Thomas Fallon statue to be placed, but not in the middle of San Jose, on the side, in the middle of that island that nobody sees, that nobody knows. So to me, that's Thomas Fallon in exile. Okay, and I think that's where it should stay. Nowadays, people talk about it when they hear the statue with a horse. Nobody knows the rider. Anyway, the other reason why I brought you here, because I wanted to realize that this barrio once existed here. In the 1950s and 1960s stretch from here all the way down to Virginia on Willow Street without consulting the people. The city and the state and all this government agencies decided that they wanted to build freeways. Okay? And so by the 1960s they decided, without telling people again, to build this new freeway called the 280 freeway that begins in San Francisco, cuts right through the middle of the Mexicano barrio. And it destroys the other barrio in East San Jose. 280 connects to 680. Okay? And a few years later, they built this other freeway, 87. And this freeway will go all the way down to Santa Teresa Ranch. Okay? And so in that way, they gutted the barrio. They forced the people to leave. And so that's what urban development does. It destroys people's living community culture without consulting the people. And it's kind of the same thing that you see with all these buildings going up again. And so this is really, supposedly this is progress, but for Latinos, this is really the destruction of this wonderful, healthy community that once existed. And what we have is basically the vestiges of a very stable, very healthy community. To the other side of the street, you're going to find that that's the Italian community. Again, it's also, they're trying to make efforts to bring it back, but with little monsters like this, they're not going to be able to connect the city. Okay? So again, Fallon statue, the Excentrico offices. And so finally people realized that you need to preserve some of the history. So what they did is, to put a little memorial in honor of the Palomar, in honor of the Rainbow Ballroom. For a lot of people this is enough, but for me I think it's just denying the history, and we need to do a lot more than that because it's not enough for me. Okay?
Is this also the Studio 47?
Studio 47. So it's by different names, Studio 47. For young kids, this is disco. In the 1960s, 70s.
Actually, I came in in the late 1970s or early 80s, and it was called Studio 47.
Yeah.
And I saw the Escobedo band, Azteca.
Peter Escobedo.
Peter Escobedo,
Yeah.
Azteca,
Malo.
his daughter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this-
Sheila.
Sheila
Sheila E.
Escobedo. She was playing the conga. She was about 16.
Dance club, it's a ballroom that begins somewhere in the 1950s. And he used to draw famous people like Louis Armstrong's Fats Domino. When he came in the 1950s, he created a riot. People started fighting each other and they had to bring in the cops. People were saying never again should they bring people like that to the area. Anyway, by the 1960s, this Palomar basically closed down. People just lost interest. But this is actually kind of fortunate because this is where the Mexicanos get. And we have all those musicians over here. La Tropicana, let's just become Tropicana twins, but in the 1960s it was known as the Rainbow Ballroom. We had people like Little Joe, a lot of Tex-Mex music coming in, a lot of famous Mexican music groups like Sonora Santanera are also coming in. Maria Victoria is coming in to perform here and over there at the Liberty. And then by the 1970s it becomes more Tex-Mex. By 1940s you have a lot of Mexicans going to the canneries, and so you can see Del Monte, who has about 3 or 4 plants here. You have Contadinas, which process only tomatoes. So they're kind of canneries, and also a lot of packing houses. So thousands of workers are working here by the early 1900s, 1960s. Okay, so this is their way of acknowledging the historical agricultural presence of the valley.
Still in history.
Oh, that's so cool! And they take you to just all the historical sites here? Wow! Very neat.
So we come to the beginning. This is really what gave life, at least human life, to the valley. The early peoples are called the Olonis. And there are all kinds of, you have to be careful with the bicycles here that coming at 3 miles an hour. Anyway, early peoples have been living here in Santa Clara County. Maybe as far back as 10,000 years ago. And they live here because of these great water systems, the Guadalupe. Okay? And not too far from here you have the Coyote River. And right next to it, in front of those trees, you're gonna have the other river, the Gato. Okay? So Santa Clara County has been characterized by several water systems that have made the valley incredibly rich along the river. So that history goes back for millions and millions of years. Okay, and so it is natural that if indigenous people will find this area very ideal for living, the incredible bountiful food that there is, other people are going to come in. And so when the Mexicans came in, which actually were known as Spaniards, at that time they're really Mexicano, they thrive here because of the incredible agricultural potential. The water is available everywhere, and so agriculture is going to come naturally. But if you look at the river, it's actually quite a bit of water today. But imagine 200 years ago when the entire valley used to flood, and you have all these 3 rivers coming together and flooding, and you have all this fine soil that gathers for 1,000 years. And so it is really that soil that comes from the mountains that basically made the Santa Clara Valley agricultural. Okay. By the 1870s, people began to plant orchards and other things, and so that basically gave life to the canneries. Incredible amounts of food in the form of peaches, pears, apricots, grapes, prunes is what's going to make Santa Clara County into one of those powerhouses. You know, this great agricultural areas that produce incredible amounts of food. And obviously, with all this abundance of food, you bring in the canneries. And so canneries are already operating here as early as the 1870s, 1890s. The primary source of labor for canneries 1890, 1900 is basically Italians who live around these areas. Other types of work, construction, high tech, eventually by the 1970s. So by the 1970s, when canneries began to decline in Santa Clara County, it is mostly Mexican now. So you're gonna find all kinds of fish here, salmon, other types of fish, ducks, all kinds of other birds that use this as a shelter. There's one big problem. At the end of the river, there's this famous Almaden mercury mines that the indigenous people used to color their faces with. But it's really mercury. And mercury is very dangerous. And so for hundreds of years, people have been eating contaminated fish. So if you go fishing in the bay, don't do that because it's all contaminated with the mercury coming out of the Almaden mines. For a long time, we hired a lot of people, made a lot of people rich, but it's also very deadly. So this fish is completely not good for eating right now or forever. This is what I mean about, you know, this continual annual floods that take place in the Santa Clara County, is that it's going to continue. So one way of trying to correct this constant flooding is by basically fixing up the river, cementing it, so that you have enough water so that it won't overflow into the streets. I think this is only a temporary solution because you can't control the flow of rivers. Nature's still back here. You can see those little ducks over there. And so it's just interesting that we're in the middle of downtown San Jose, and yet, you know, nature is still in the middle of the city. Okay? And so no matter what we do here, you know, there's a tendency that San Jose will continue to flood in the future. Fact that it's only available for people that want to walk here, not very many, and so most likely the people are taking advantage of the bicyclists who think that this is theirs and they can go here at 25-30 miles an hour, and they don't want us to be walking around here because we're blocking their way. Okay, so I think that we can make better use of this place and really draw people here because it has a very calming effect on people. It brings us back to nature. This is what indigenous people liked about this area, and Mexicanos loved it, and obviously all the other groups that came afterwards. Okay? So start thinking about what kind of things we can do to beautify this place and make it more attractive, more appealing to people. And so So one idea is for me is to basically use those walls out there and have this fantastic murals. A Chicana artist that basically made like a 2-mile mural, and she basically traced all the history of Los Angeles on those walls. And maybe you could do the same thing, starting with the early species, the dinosaurs, the mastodons, and then eventually these big animals, the big cats, so on, and then basically show the flow of the history of the valley to the immigrants and to the people. And we need to make sure that the early peoples that were here are recognized, because there's nothing here that reminds us of the early people. Google is going to come in, and those people are never going to know who the early founders were. And so I think we need to do something for the indigenous people who are still here, but simply are no longer part of history. Okay, so to me, this is something that we can put up on those walls and really beautify them, and then make our best to bring people down into this river. This river walk is supposed to go all the way into Almaden Valley, and so people can actually walk or bicycle or whatever they can do. So it's incredibly great, because I think to improve the health of people, they start walking more and see the city. And it makes perfect sense, because if you notice that in order for people to survive here, you need to have a good, reliable supply of food. And so all of this land that lies between here and the Fairmont Hotel is incredibly fertile. All you need to do is have enough water. So you can see that there are actually acequias, these canals that are being used to take water out of the river, and they're able to farm the little plots of land. Okay, and so they're able to feed them for years and years with this type of a system. But this is nothing new. The indigenous people, the Olones, used to live here, and so the villages were along the river, but also this is where they bury the people. And I think that this is an area that is sacred ground. When they were building this Center for Performing Arts, there was a big conflict, because when they were digging the soil, they found skeletal remains, and the construction was stopped because a lot of Chicanos were saying, and a lot of indigenous people were saying that this is sacred ground, you can't build. And so there's a lot of people getting arrested until finally there was some negotiation where they were allowed to remove the bodies, and they were repaired somewhere else. But there was all kinds of signs about indigenous life. To the indigenous people, the Olones, the coyotes are sacred, represent nature. You can see everything else is Ohlone. And so this, I think, would be a wonderful place to basically do something like a museum of natural history, where you can remember the early history of peoples, and get people like Google to pitch in, and all these people, Adobe, to pitch in to build a world-class history museum or natural history museum, where you can actually see the history of all the people that have come and settled here, because this is a millenarian history that's been around here, and obviously Mexicanos are a real part of it. They have been here for over 200 years, and they're not going to go away, in spite of the fact that everywhere is now being settled, it's being sold to Google, gentrification. And so this is my big worry, because I think that poor people are going to get kicked out of the area, and obviously a lot of this history is going to be wiped out. So this concludes the tour. Thank you. If you have any questions, ask them.
Also, if you'd like to share with me your email or contact so that we could reach out to you in the future, or if you'd like to reach out to us, I can give you my group, Chicana X Graduate Council from San Jose State, our group email. Just let us know, and we'll just hang around if you have any questions at all or want to talk to us.
Hi, my name is Miguel. I just went on a tour of Mexican history in San Jose. It was very informational. Learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know already. So thank you to the professor for putting this on, and everybody else. Thank you, Dr. Ramon as well, for exposing this to us. So a lot of us don't know a lot of this history, and it's good to be able to put that out there. So, because it's our future for our kids to be able to understand that, and them to understand their culture, our culture. Thank you. Y un saludo a mi tía Raquel.
I'm Elma Redondo, and I took this tour. I found it very interesting. I thought I knew a lot about San Jose, but I learned a lot more, and I'm very appreciative of Professor Mora-Torres for doing this for us. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Josh, and I found out about this group/event on Facebook, and kind of what I got out of it is I learned a lot more about my city, you know, San Jose native, Chicano, and I'm just trying to get in touch with my culture, and I felt like Professor, you know, was able to explain a lot and open my eyes and open the group's eyes to a lot of the real history and living history that we still have here. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Sure. My name is Margarita Garcia Villa, and I'm here because Dr. Mora is one of my mentors at San Jose State, and I really do enjoy his lectures, and I wanted to come and see the walking tour, the famous walking tour, and it was lovely. It was great. Highly recommend it. I hope he keeps doing them again. Oh, I know, right? And these are made by a lady here in San Jose. Soldadera is the name of her shop.
Hi, I'm Bill. I just went on the tour with the professor and learned a lot about the Mexican history in San Jose. Really appreciate it. We moved here about 3 years ago and love learning and living here.
Oh yeah.
I'm with them.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alejandro Espinosa, and we just finished with the tour of San Jose downtown and the history of the downtown area. So I want to thank everyone who came. It was really informative, it was really fun, and I appreciate Dr. Mora-Torres for doing this tour for us. So thank you.
Bringing in stuff. And the San Jose used to collect for Kansas Jack. Anybody wants to donate stuff for them? Clothes. You know, just you know, from the 1940s, 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you have cooking utensils, work utensils.
My grandma had all these things. Well, I think she passed away 2 years ago, but she had like all these even like the old irons that you had to put the holes in it to do that. She had those from her mom, and it's interesting because she had all these like letters between. Because my tata used to work with Cesar Chavez, so he had like all the letters and stuff. And I found out after he passed away that she donated it to a museum, and I'm like, nah. I was like, I mean that's good, but I wanted to see them, yeah. So it's interesting just knowing the history of all that stuff. Yeah.
Or at least you can collect your family history.
I know. Bueno, profe.
Gracias, profesor.
Okay. Hi, Nitzia Claus Macias. I'm actually in the Mexican American Studies Master's Program at San Jose State, and we just finished the historical tour with Profe Mora-Torres. And it's just really good to see like the historical sites, to know a little bit more in depth of the importance of, you know, understanding our history, the preservation of our culture and our ancestry, and also like the buildings that have been there. Knowing like what has happened historically is always important to, you know, where we're at. You know, history is always important. I love history, so sign up.